Good evening. I'm Mary Ray Bragg, a member of the Dubuque League of Women Voters and the moderator for your show this evening. The League is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages informed and active citizen participation in government. Membership is open to any citizen 18 years of age or older. And we would like to thank the Dubuque Community School Board candidates for their participation this evening and for their invaluable gift to Dubuque by being candidates for public office. Running for a 4-year term on the school board are Nancy Bradley, Delano Kane Watson, May Hinchin,
Good job.
and Anderson Sanchi. Ms. Bradley, we will begin with you. Please tell us why you are running for school board.
Well, that's a great opener. Thank you. I really have spent my life working with and for children. After my full career, it was in the Dubuque Community School District, where I was a teacher, a reading clinician, in charge of professional learning and school improvement, and then I was the director of elementary education. So when I retired after a year of commitment to children and their families and the community in that way, I decided I had more to offer children. And so it just is a privilege to have been able to continue these past 2 terms on the school board to be able to keep working for children. And so that's really the only reason I want to continue, is that I feel I have more to offer and that I am committed and have certainly proven my dedication and my experience and my knowledge to be useful, I think. So I'm hoping that the community will see this as an opportunity for me to continue to offer those things to the kids we serve.
Thank you. Mr. Kane Watson?
Yes. So I'd say good evening, and thank you to the League for hosting us and for everyone for showing up today. I'm Delano Kane Watson. I'm a proud Dubuquer now. That's what I tell myself. I'm not a career politician. I'm your neighbor, your advocate, someone who is showing up because, I live here too. I went to Jefferson Middle School and then Hempstead High School before moving to Denver, Colorado back in 2017. And then, of course, I came back to Dubuque during our COVID summer, and I went to the University of Dubuque and graduated in 2024. So I've seen what happens when our North End, continues to get left behind in education, opportunity, even basic access to food and transportation. The Telegraph Herald and a couple of other organizations say that I need more maturity and experience, but that's kind of wild. Most folks up here are older than I am, and I have the same degrees, same community work, and I've done in 24 years what some have been able to do in the decades that they've been here in Dubuque. I was the vice president of student government at the University of Dubuque. I was appointed by all 7 members of our city council to our Human Rights Commission. And so someone that was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, I know what it means when we have school districts in a city and a community that leaves behind the least of these, if you will. So I'm here tonight to share my thoughts on what I can do to serve on our school board. And even if I don't get elected, I'm still with you all here in Dubuque. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sinjin?
Thank you. Good evening. I have a lot of reasons that I want to be on the school board, but I think I'll start with this first question with the fact that about 18 years ago, I had the opportunity to be the executive director of an agency whose main mission was the well-being of children. And other than raising my own 2 daughters, I realized then 18 years ago that the well-being of children is my life's purpose, is my greatest passion in life. I have, ever since then, crafted decisions for myself to ensure that I was aligned with that life's purpose of taking care of children. I believe that all children deserve to feel safe. I believe all children deserve to have caring adults and to have an effective education. So I worked here for the school district for 10 years, and during that time I fulfilled that mission, right, of the well-being of children. And since I left 6 years ago, I've taken 2 jobs very specifically for that opportunity to always stay connected to children. My position that I have right now is a little bit further removed from that direct access to policy or funding that will help improve the outcomes for children. And so I've decided it doesn't necessarily need to be my full-time job. It could be my volunteer job too.
Thank you. Mr. Zanchi.
Yeah, so I too want to thank everyone who's here today and for the Women League of Voters for putting this together. For me, I'm running again because I'm just passionate about students. I'm passionate about building community, and I'm passionate about just serving people generally. I think that's just a calling for me that I've learned just through faith. And so I have the privilege of being a father of 4 children, one who's a sophomore at senior high school. I have 2 at Mazzucchelli, and I also have 1 at Our Lady of Guadalupe. And so I have the privilege of just seeing education from many different lenses, doesn't matter if it's public or private. I also have the privilege of serving on a lot of boards, not to pump my chest, but again, it's just passion. Boards in the community that service kids in our community, and that brings people together to make sure that we're doing what's best, not only for the children in our community, but overall the community. So in my head, it's about building connections and making sure everyone has access to the resources that they need. And so it's a privilege and an honor to be here today and continue to show you why, you should continue to elect me. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I should make note that the questions that I will be asking this evening are ones that have been submitted to the League of Women Voters from the public prior to this meeting and also during the meeting. So we are hoping that these questions will reflect the community's interest in general. Mr. Kane Watson, we will start with you on the next question. And this question is, what are your feelings about the teachers' union needing to be recertified every contract year?
So coming from someone that is, of course, not in the schools and not having all the answers, I will say that I don't have all the answers, but I think that as we look forward to supporting our teachers' unions, which, of course, supports our administrators and our teachers, and, of course, at the end of the day, our students, that's who we are all here for. I think that we, no matter what our personal feelings are, we must work within the legal bounds of our city, county, state, and federal governing bodies. And so I do understand at the same time, or on another note, that when we have state legislation and also federal legislation that comes in and kind of puts stops or red tape on what we can do at a smaller local level, that impacts the decisions that our teachers unions can make right here in our schools. So I do understand holding our organizations accountable, but I also want to ensure that we can do what we can here at the local level to keep the city, state, and federal legislating bodies out of the way as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. St.
All right, thank you. I think that the history in Dubuque is a very strong history of unions, and I have always appreciated that the spirit of collaboration here at the Dubuque Community School District with the Dubuque Education Association. And I think that the requirement for the recertification each year really boils down to engagement. I mean, to have the teachers come and all of the union members come and to have that vote to recertify every year helps to keep everyone engaged and involved where they can stay up to date on the issues that they need to. So although it might seem like a kind of an artificial process, it really helps to develop relationships and for people to really feel engaged and a part of their community here at the school district.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchi?
Yeah, I think overall we have a real good relationships with our union here, and we want to continue to have the best staff that are equipped to educate all of our students within our buildings. And so for us, I think we're going to continue to work with them to make sure that they have the skill sets to meet the needs of every single student within our building. So I'm excited to continue to work with them, and that's my response.
Thank you. Ms. Bradley?
Yes, I am so grateful for the work of the Dubuque Education Association. It is a longstanding, top-quality, highly regarded part of the professional educator world, and we are blessed to have the DEA work with us, work with the teachers, work with them, work for them. I think it is unnecessary to have to be recertified every year. I think that is a limitation that's been placed on the organization, and it came at the same time as the loss of collective bargaining, which is a tragic thing that has happened. So in spite of that, we continue to see high-quality work from the DEA, high-quality leadership, high-quality teachers in our system, in part because of the support of the DEA. And so I can only say thank you to them, and I'm sorry that they have to be recertified every year. I don't believe that should be. And I long for the time when we're back to having collective bargaining as a part of how we do our work.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll begin with Ms. Hingen, and it has to do with something entirely different. A sports complex and an aquatic center are on the Envision 2030 list. Do you see this as a benefit to Dubuque schools?
That's a really great question. I think it depends on how it's approached. And I think the community in Dubuque has such a strong reputation of collaboration. And so I know that when the school district looked at revamping the pool at Hempstead, there were a lot of conversations with the city and with other community organizations to ensure that whatever was done at Hempstead served the community. And so I would expect no different from the city's perspective, that they would have that, those collaborative discussions with the Dubuque Community School District, with Holy Family, with the colleges in our community to plan for a sports complex or an aquatic center that really helps to meet the needs of the community. I think we talk about it a lot, and we don't take enough credit for the level of collaboration and partnership that we have in Dubuque. And I think it's second nature for our community leaders, whatever factor of the community that they represent, that we're talking to one another and making sure that planning is intentional to serve a lot of needs. So I think there would be a great opportunity for the school district to be able to give input to the city on that project.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchi.
Yeah, I think it's a huge asset for not only the district, but our community. So as I mentioned, I have 4 children, and we travel all over the world, it seems like, for basketball, gymnastics, you name it. And so I believe it's very essential to keeping families here and also bringing families here. And I also believe that the school district can also play a role as we think about even the bond and the role that this new middle school could potentially play in allowing community members to utilizing that building like we do Roosevelt and other school buildings for various sports, from volleyball, from wrestling, pickleball, which is also important to me. And so I do think it's very important to our community, and I hope the district does play a role in that conversation. So.
Ms. Brandy.
Well, I think anytime a community is rich with activity options for kids and for families, it's a better place for everyone. So I'm grateful for the activity centers that we do have, whether they're in the school district, and we love to engage our community in using our facilities for activities, but also when there are other opportunities in a community, it's sort of the all boats float higher because we have more opportunities. We know there's a great deal of research that says when students are engaged productively, whether it's activities, whether it's the arts, whether it's sports, whatever it might be, when those are positive experiences, and mostly they are, it is a huge enrichment of that child's life. And I assume this will have opportunities for families to come together around those activities. Wonderful. I look forward to that.
Thank you. Our next question, Mr. Sanchi, you will begin with this round. What changes need to be?
I didn't get the chance to answer.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. So personally, yes, I 100% echo what my colleagues up here have said about the collaboration for the new aquatic or sports complex and center. And what that will do for our community will provide leaps and bounds above what we're able to do right now. It allows for several public-private partnerships as well, which I know that May mentioned that Dubuque does, and it seems as if it's second nature to Dubuque and the culture that we have already created here in terms of connecting our community to our students. And I do think that is important, and that also would benefit students at every single level of education here in Dubuque, not only within the school district, but also I know the University of Dubuque, where is my proud alma mater, is always looking at growing as well. So this could be an opportunity for the University of Dubuque to have a place to hopefully, build even a swim team, which of course many of our DCSD kids do end up graduating from our school district here and stay local, and that's of course what we want. So this gives them another opportunity to be able to do such a thing. And so I'm 100% in support of any type of collaboration we can do with our community.
Great, thank you. Again, I apologize.
No problem, you're good.
All right. So now, Mr. Sanchi, this question is the next one. What changes need to be made in how we teach as artificial intelligence becomes more prevalent?
Yeah, so I have the privilege of also teaching at the University of Dubuque, and one of the things that I love to do, even with my own students, is to always pose a question, a thoughtful question that allows them to cross-collaborate with each other and learn from one another. And so I think in any learning lab is you really need to allow the students to learn and to lead the conversation. And especially with technology coming out, there's various ways where you can incorporate just AI into just the conversation, AI into activities. And so it's very just interesting just watching how individuals and students learn when you just, as a teacher, you just pose the questions and you allow them to think, and you're able to also just reshape at times and redirect. And you go in the classrooms now in our school district and you see that happening, where the teacher is just posing questions and you're allowing the students to cross-pollinate and learn from one another. And so I think that's going to continue to be the way that students learn. And even with the University of Dubuque, that's what you're hearing them propose as well as the learning method moving forward, is allowing the teacher just to stand back and the teachers leading the efforts.
Excuse me, Ms. Bradley.
Well, I think that it's an interesting opportunity for us right now to learn when and how to use AI and when not to use AI. And I think part of that is our learning, or our I'm retired, how teachers and administrators will use AI in a way that's productive and helpful to advance learning, not oppose it. There's no point in opposing AI. But how will we use it? When will we use it? And let's help our kids to learn that as a part of the teaching and learning that's going on in our schools. So bring it on. We don't have the answers for it yet, to be sure, but we're working to get there.
Mr. Kane-Watson.
So as someone that is still a student myself right now, I'm in my Master of Public Administration program. I am actually doing several assignments now talking about how do we use AI ethically, and I'm 100% on board with what I've heard so far, especially learning how do we actively engage and also ethically engage AI in the classroom today. And it's a very helpful even study tool to be able to phrase questions in a different manner. You can simply take a picture of an assignment and say, hey, help me understand, or you can write out a study guide. And so there are very helpful and practical applications of AI. Of course, that is a big topic in terms of, as I said before, how do we ethically use it? And I think that just like Mrs. Bradley said, that we don't have all the answers. And of course, we will have to push forward with that agenda of learning how do we actively engage that in our classrooms, but do it in an ethical way that benefits not only the students and the teachers, but also administrators and, of course, our school board.
Thank you. Ms. Hinchen.
There used to be a saying that was on the wall right there. It's not there anymore, but it's up here. And it's the mission of the Dubuque Community School District. And I proudly helped develop this, I don't know, 15 years ago. And it says to develop world-class learners and citizens of character in a safe and inclusive learning and community. And I'm so glad that the current school board has kept this mission statement for this school district, because you know what? It's not just about AI. AI is the tool that we are learning about right now and the tool that we're all focused on right now. But if we really want to develop world-class learners in 5 years or in 10 years or in the next 20 years, we need to be responsive to whatever the next thing is, right? Technology is going to continue to grow and to evolve. And if we really want our students in the Dubuque Community School District to be world-class learners in a safe and inclusive learning environment, it takes us embracing every single one of those evolutions in technology and figuring out the best way to expose our children to that and to help them to use it in a way that propels them forward in their lives.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchi.
I believe I was the first one, right?
Yeah,
I can answer it again if you want.
that's right, you did. I'm sorry. I like to blame it on the fall and allergies and such as that, but some of it has to do with.
I'm glad there's not 8 candidates. Harder to keep track.
Okay, so we will start
All
again
right.
with you, Ms. Brown.
Okay, sure.
Do you feel that school choice weakens public education in Dubuque by distributing funds to Holy Family?
Yes. I'll explain a little bit about that. There is only so much money at the state level that can go to education. And when that pot of money is eroded or reduced because it's not going to public education, then the amount of money that's available for funding public education is diminished. I just went online, I went to the Council of Chief State School Officers website, and Iowa has fallen to 29th in the nation in funding, 29th in the nation in funding to public education. Unbelievable. And translation of that is that for every student, we receive, as public educators, $2,000 less than the national average of funding to children, to students for public education. That is a gigantic deficit. So we find ourselves having to do things that we don't want to do. We don't want to close schools. We don't want to have to do some of those decisions that have to be made to be fiscally responsible, but we must. And so while I greatly regard the private schools in our area and have always held them in high regard, the presence of the HSAs of vouchers now has diminished the funding that's available for public education.
Mr. Kane Watson?
So I think this is the perfect time to, talk about school choice, especially when we have the school bond measure on the ballot, as well as all of our candidacies on the ballot as well. And I think the current issue with what was Fulton Elementary, which is now, of course, Dream Academy, where students are able to use the school vouchers and the opportunity for school choice. When the Dubuque Community School District fails our North End kids and closes down Fulton Elementary School and allows Dream Center to open up the Dream Academy, which is, a private institution, this shows us that when the public sector doesn't do our part in supporting kids, especially kids that come from impoverished communities, aka our North End, this just shows us what happens when we have to look toward private organizations to step in. Now, of course, I don't want public tax dollars to go to private schools either, and I want students to be able to have, as the mission says, to develop world-class learners in a safe and inclusive environment. But the Dubuque Community School Board wasn't able to provide that to North End kids, so Dream Academy is doing that. So I think that we need to do everything we can to make sure that we hold our state accountable to the funding of our public schools. And we have school board directors with kids in private schools, so it can't be that bad, apparently.
Thank you. Ms. Hinchen?
Yeah, so back to the topic of the question is, does school choice weaken public education? I think that's a a complicated answer. I mean, I would say yes and no. First of all, has it threatened the financial stability of public education in Iowa? Yes. Has it weakened public education? I would say not in the Dubuque Community School District, because I have seen and witnessed the passion and commitment of the staff in our school district. And so I think that it hasn't weakened it, because there's still, even with the education savings accounts, that our staff are really committed to providing that great education to our students. But then I would say yes again, because I do think that the political rhetoric around the education savings accounts over the past 3 years has damaged morale a little bit, and not just here, but across the state, where public education staff have not felt as valued perhaps as they once were. And so from the really big perspective of, is it weakening public education because it makes us feel, people who are involved in public education, a little bit less valued, then I think my final answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sanchi?
Yeah, I think one person is here for the wrong reasons. Clearly, anytime you're taking resources away from the public system, that's not a good thing. Where the mass of our kids go here. We need every single resource, not just funding, here. Number two, our teachers are not failing the North End. Again, you have someone who just doesn't know what they're talking about. We have teachers who care about every single kid in our district. The fact that the state is taking resources away is what the reason why you have a Dream Academy, and that's not an issue to us. They are a partner, and we're thankful for them, because again, every single kid in this community is still our kids, and we want to see them to become successful. I'm thankful that as a parent, I too have choice, which every single family should have choice to do what's best for their kids. And if you don't have kids, you have no idea what that's about, right? And so you just have people who say random things just for probably punchlines. So I'm thankful that my kids have an opportunity to experience the Spanish immersion, to speak a different language. Paleo and Lord Bagay too. I speak a different language, which Creole is my first language. And so when people don't know the reason why you do certain things, they can make silly comments. But every single resources that our school district deserve it. And when you take resources away, it hurts us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Kane Watson, we will begin with you on this round. And I think this is kind of a no-brainer, hopefully, but we have to ask this one. What is your stance on the school bond and why?
Yes. So going back to my previous question, my previous answer to the previous question of school choice and what the district is currently doing to our North End kids, I mean, it's hard to say that we're not failing our North End kids when we already took away an elementary school. We're on the verge, with 60% of votes happening in less than 2 weeks, of taking away another institution, another safe haven, from someone who I was a student at Jefferson Middle School. I know what it means to sit in a band classroom and not have the same brand spanking new instruments that Roosevelt Middle School has. So we can't say we're not failing our community, our students in our district. And I mean, I don't need to have kids to understand and to talk about my own personal experience with going to Jefferson Middle School. I have several nieces, nephews, cousins, community leaders who have kids that go to Jefferson. And so in my opinion, I think that we've waited 100 years and continue to allow this problem to get worse and worse and more expensive over the years. Back in 2005, when we noticed that our population was growing out westward, we needed 3 middle schools then, right? We needed 3 middle schools when the wealthy kids out at Roosevelt and in the West End needed a middle school. Why can't we find the same energy towards our lower income kids that can already barely focus in a classroom? How about we give them a classroom in the first place? Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hinchin.
I'd like to start my comments on this topic with the point that our current school board and our administration has done their homework in order to make the decision to place the bond on the ballot in November. That bond will be decided by the time that those of us are either reelected or elected to the school board. So my opinion on the bond, I don't know that is the most relevant, because if I'm elected to the school board, I will have the responsibility of upholding whatever the voters choose to do with this bond. I don't believe that this election is a single issue focused around the bond. I know that if that bond passes, it will be the responsibility of the school board to enact the bond, to continue with the planning and selecting the contractors and making the transition for students to be something that is felt like is easy. I know that's kind of a funny statement, but a smooth transition for students. And I know if that bond fails, that it will be the responsibility of the school board to go back to the table, as our board did 2 years ago, and sought the feedback and decided that they wanted to try again. So I know I'm being a little bit vague. I do support the bond. I think it's in the best interest of students as far as safety goes, but I think that is not the main factor in this election.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchi.
Yeah, so I support the bond 100%. And I think when you understand the why behind it, it gives you more perspective. And so when you understand that there's less children in our community, and let's just say particularly in our downtown area, you're getting less revenue per children, but expenses are still going up. We have to make tough decisions that are going to impact not only today's children, but children to come. And so again, we're not failing our children. We have to make decisions based on what's in front of us, data that we've been talking about for a long, long time. And I think some people are just now paying attention and again, just make random comments. And so I support it because I believe it's going to give all of our kids opportunities, especially the ones that we claim that we care about. If you care about Jefferson kids, they're going to benefit from this opportunity. They're going to get the same access, the same instrument that you wish you had. They're going to get access to opportunities to be in the gyms, in the lunchroom, to be collaborative, the things that we all say that we want for our children. And again, not just the kids that are here today, but 20, 30 to 100 years from now, our kids and community will benefit from the decision. So I support it 100%.
Thank you. Ms. Bradley.
Well, excuse me, I completely support the bond referendum. In the last election where we asked for 150 million, it has now been reduced to 70. We listened to the voters and said, too many projects. Those projects needed to be done, but not to be included in the bond. So this is a singular focus. As I said in my previous response, the amount of money that's going to public education does not give us enough funding to make huge improvements to schools that need them, like Jefferson. In order to remake Jefferson, which, as Mr. Sansi said, has very declining enrollment, we simply don't have that kind of fund. When we look for financial efficiencies, we can reduce staff, we can reduce programs, or we can reduce the cost of the buildings that we have. So by going from 3 middle schools to 2 middle schools, we will in fact save the district $2 million to $2.5 million per year just in operating costs for that building because of the efficiencies that will happen in the new facility. So the decisions we'll have to make if the bond should fail to be supported by the community will be not popular things, but we will have to do something to reach a balanced budget with the limitations that we have.
Thank you. Well, this next question is a good follow-up to the last question and partially answered by some of you, but give you a little more time to answer this part of it. How will you advise or advocate the district to move ahead if the bond does not pass? And Ms. Hingen, we'll start with you.
Okay. If the bond does not pass, then I think it is, well, two things are super important. The first is what is the best for students. And I think that as a school board, we can't ever take our eye off that focus. What is the best thing for our students? I don't necessarily think geography of a school building equals abandonment. I think care and commitment to all students and ensuring accessibility to all students is important. So the school board and the administration has been pretty clear that if the bond fails, that doesn't necessarily mean it will save Jefferson Middle School. And so I think that the responsibility of the Board of Education then will be to look at how do we support those students. This school district has built new schools in the last 100 years. We can look at Marshall, we can look at Prescott, and we can look at Audubon as far as we haven't gone 100 years without any planning. So those three schools that I just named are in, the more north end part of our community. So I think a well-rounded look at what's best for students and going back and really trusting the administration that we have, trusting the process and listening to our community members about what they need if this bond fails is the next step.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me echo that. The way that we operate as a board is to make sure that we have good process. So we have the best superintendent who has an amazing staff that will do all of their research, that will make sure that they engage parents and community members in the process, and they will bring various data points to us. And as a board, we will make sure we ask very thoughtful questions. We will try to rip the process apart to see if they've thought of anything else, and then we will come up with the best plan that will be communicated to our community before any decision is being made. So that way, throughout the process, people have some say-so and input with our decisions. But again, we have an amazing superintendent and a staff that will bring us a lot of information, good process, and then we'll make a decision moving forward.
Ms. Bradley?
Well, the district has, I believe, tried to communicate what will need to happen if the bond referendum is unsuccessful. Going back to my previous question, I said when we need to find efficiencies and reduce expenses, it comes down to people, programs, or buildings. And so our focus has been on reducing building costs. And when you look at our class sizes, which is an average of 23 to 25 per class average for the district, if you look across the state and see what other districts have decided, their class sizes are 30, 32, much higher class sizes. We don't want that. But we will need to look, if the building efficiency proposal doesn't succeed, we will need to then look at people and programs. And so that could mean increasing class size. It could mean closing more schools if we would have to do that. Certainly, we could reconfigure where students are located. Jefferson is 375 students. We can't house that, we can't support that huge complex for 375 students. So a reconfiguration might be necessary across the district as another option.
Mr. King Watson?
Yes. So if the bond measure does fail, then that sends us back to the drawing board. We were at the drawing board, 2 years ago when the people said that we didn't want this. We're at the drawing board now. The preliminary district numbers show that we don't have the 60% to pass the bond. So that sends us back to the drawing board. That sends us back out into the community to say, where can we do better? And what can we do that we haven't already proposed? And I think it sends a very sad message to the community when the answers are either vote yes and let us do it, or vote no and let us do it anyways. And so when we have the ultimatum of Jefferson closing anyways, I think as long as Jefferson's going to close, I think that we need to look at how do we repurpose that building, how do we repurpose that land. I believe the district as much as I know, doesn't have a plan as to what will happen with that current plot of land. And I think that could be repurposed into being a community center as long as Jefferson's going to close anyways. I know that we have a huge need in our special education area in terms of autism or ADHD. I know we have private partnerships with Caravel Autism Health. I think that would be another way that we can repurpose that building. But I think ultimately going back out into the community and I think holding the institutions accountable and entities accountable that are putting out the information, especially the Telegraph Herald, and making sure that if we're going to interview folks that say yes, let's interview folks that say no as well. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, our next question, we'll start with Mr. Sanchi. What do you think of the state recommendation that IPERS be a pay-for-performance system with bonuses for student achievements?
So one of my favorite stories that I typically share is, so I visited every single school building early on in my career. And I remember going into a classroom and a teacher said, Mr. Anderson, before my students walk into the class, I have to unpack what's in their book bag. At the time, I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she said, well, I don't know if they're hungry. I don't know if they're dealing with trauma. I don't know if they saw someone get abused. And so our buildings are very different. And so I do not agree with that because every single teacher does not have a child that's coming in ready and able to learn. And so I think right now we just have to continue to equip our teachers with all the tools that they need, maybe encourage some of our teachers who've been here for a long time, if we can work this out, to go into some of the schools that are having more challenges, so that way older teachers are mentoring younger teachers. But just based on performance and how well a student can get an A, that's not the full story of a child. There's so much to a child, and so I don't agree with that.
Thank you. Ms. Bradley?
Well, needless to say, I feel very strongly opposed to a pay-for-performance system. It is a sure way to decrease or potentially even eliminate the collaboration that must happen among educators to meet kids' needs. The needs are great, the needs are varied, and they're every day. And that means teams of people have to come together, work together, find solutions, find the next way to help each child get his or her needs met. When we set up a competitive system, a pay-for-performance, we have all the intentions, in my opinion, to stop collaboration and set up competition. The result then is that kids lose. That's a decrease in our effectiveness when that happens. Across the country, take a look at places where it has been put into place. It has failed. It has not been a successful model. Why our state would consider that model, I do not understand. I am completely opposed and support the fact that the collaboration that we have with the quality people that we have working with our kids must continue without interruption or decrease.
Thank you. Mr. Kane-Watson?
Yes, to echo what Ms. Bradley said about collaboration over competition, I 100% agree. I'm 100% opposed to pay for performance or pay for merit programs, and of course support IPERS. And to echo what Mrs. Sanchi said as well about collaborating and also understanding that when we look towards mentorship within our educators and mentorship amongst our administrators and our teacher leaders, our students, I think that we need to become very creative in doing that. And another thing that I like to add, a personal story, is I was, of course, before moving to Dubuque, born and raised in the Chicago public school system, also Denver public schools. So two of the most failing school systems that we know in the entire country. And so if we look towards, I know Chicago doesn't have that in terms of pay for merit, but if we look at Chicago versus even Dubuque, I know this is two completely different sizes, two completely different animals, but if we look at even shortening that or looking at that in a more local lens, when we look at the test scores and grades at Jefferson Middle School and Roosevelt Middle School, if we initiate this kind of pay for performance or pay for merit system, that would already further disenfranchise our North End kids, our North End families than we are already doing. So I'm 100% against it.
Thank you. Ms. Hinchen?
I have a niece who her first college degree was in electrical engineering, and her second college degree was in secondary education. So she's a very intelligent young woman, and she lives in Florida. When she was teaching in the high school in Florida, they implemented a pay-for-performance system, and my niece is no longer a teacher. So if you want to drive teachers out of teaching, out of the profession, you implement something like pay-for-performance. I think that in our school district, we have really well-established mechanisms for training teachers and evaluating teachers. I don't have any doubt about the high quality and the highly skilled teachers in our school district. I don't think a pay performance system measures the teacher who gets down on a third grader's level and gives them a hug when they walk in the door. I don't think pay for performance measures a teacher who looks at a seventh grader and realizes that they didn't have a meal last night and sneaks them a granola bar from their own lunch. I don't think that a pay performance system measures any of that. There's not a rubric in the world that could be developed to measure the care and commitment that our teachers in our school district have for our children. So I don't think it would be a good fit for our school district.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchi?
Again, I think I can answer it again. I was the first one.
Oh, that's right. Mercy. I'm going to get fired, that's for sure. Okay. Well, then, we will start with Nancy Bradley.
Sure.
Okay. Dubuque Community School System has received a $27,000 state grant for industrial and technical education. How should that be spent?
Well, I wish I knew more specifically about our programming, but what I do know is that the improvement and increases in the programming in our CTE, Career and Technical Education, which this grant falls under, has been extraordinary in the last few years, which is why we received that grant. That's a recognition for the great progress that has been made in developing partnerships with community businesses and industries, setting up internships and job shadowing, setting up collaborative programming so that our students are out of the program or out of the classroom and that four walls and out into the world of work. And they're learning while they're students in our schools because of the collaborative partnerships with business and industry and organizations. That grant, I believe, will be used to advance that even further, which is just a wonderful thing. I think that the momentum and the direction that our district has been going and creating more, they're called career pathways, and every year more are being developed. And this, I believe, will be used to develop even more. It's a wonderful way to prepare our students for the world of work.
Thank you. Mr. King Watson?
Yes, so to echo what Ms. Bradley said, and to also add a little bit of personal experience in this, I do, of course, 100% support the grant, and I'm happy that the state is at least somewhat investing in our career technical education, because as we look towards being, creating a world-class learners, that doesn't just mean world-class learners that can learn in an environment with four walls. And I know I'm out in the community, and in the North End, I know there is an indoor grow lab that I'm touring tomorrow even, and they do a lot of work with Waller Catholic High School, and looking at this might be a good partnership through public-private partnership that we can enhance that we don't have right now. And also even looking at NICC, we count on NICC for driver education. We count on them for CNA certifications. I know we have even a school bus program, and possibly that might be questions coming later. But this might be a good opportunity for us to partner with NICC to give our students, especially even students from our Alta Vista campus, into a commercial driver's license training program. To then that not only prepares them for real world experiences and real world work, but when they graduate, they can have that license to be able to go out and not only drive for us in the district, but also help us to attack several problems at one time. So I think CTE is a wonderful opportunity we have here in Dubuque, and we have no reason to stop that.
Ms. Hinton?
First of all, congratulations to the school district on getting that grant. But I would say that In my career, I've had a lot of opportunities to apply for and receive grants. And on the flip side, I've had the opportunity to offer grants. And I would say for us to sit up here and give ideas about how that grant should be, what should be funded with that grant is probably inappropriate, because that grant was written with something in mind. So it was awarded because of a proposed project. So I don't think it's our role to say, oh, this is how that money should be spent. I think that as a school board, that we need to trust our teachers and trust our curriculum staff and trust our administration and the ideas that they have, that they bring forth for any grant. I know that when I was here at the school district, the administration took a big gamble on me and a $500,000 grant that I wrote and successfully received. And at the time, they were like, I'm not sure that we should do this, and it turned out pretty well. So I think as a school board, it's not our role to say, this is how a grant should be spent. I think it is to trust the staff who wrote it, and every granting organization is going to want to make sure it's spent in a way that it was proposed.
Yes, I echo that comment. We have amazing staff who apply for grants that align with our mission. And so right here in front of me, I actually brought it with me, we have our strategic plan that says ready for you. And so in our strategic plan, we're trying to make sure that kids are not just college ready to go to a 4-year, but we have, as Nancy mentioned, career paths where they can be a plumber, an electrician, they can be a CNA. And I actually had a student that I mentored a few days ago who just shared with me, Mr. Anderson, I don't want to work at Subway anymore. Can you help me to be an electrician? And so I reached out to my friend Kelly Cooper with the Dubuque Area Labor Management, and I said, hey, and this young man is in the tri-state school area. And so I said, hey, do you guys come to this area at all to mentor kids, to expose them to careers outside of a 4-year? And she just gave me a variety of details. So relationships like that with community partners that can help advance opportunities for all of our kids in this community is very essential, because, again, not every single kid is going to go to a 4-year institution. There's some kids right away that as soon as they leave high school, they want to go to work. And we have employers that are ready for kids to come to work. We have kids also that are ready to start businesses that can be the next electrician, that can be the next plumber, that can be the next contractor. Let's help them while they're in our school district to be successful. So I'm in full support of it.
Thank you. Nancy? Ms. Bradley?
Please.
Yes. This is a follow-up question, basically, and allows you to do a little more with what we were just talking about. How do you feel that we can best prepare our students for post-secondary success in the workforce?
Excellent question. I think that the direction that we've been going in terms of bringing the community into our classrooms more and more, and taking our students out into the world of work and the community more and more is key to really having it not be a cliff that a student falls off of when they finish high school and enters the world of work. There's an intentional bridging of opportunities in the community, as Mr. Sansi said, to be better prepared to take on some advanced training and some things as a part of the regular K-12 education system. And so I think that we are well-placed in a direction of moving kids out of a 4-wall classroom into the community, bringing more of the community in. I'm a real hands-on learning advocate. I think that every time we actively engage students in the real world, we make a stronger learning connection, and we bring their learning stronger and further. So I think it's a continuation of that direction, more and more opportunities to experience the world of work directly, and to get a picture of what is this thing called work. Oh, I didn't know that was a part of it. As I've mentored students over the years, I've found some of them don't have an understanding of the world of work. Well, let's give them more of that while they're in school.
Mr. King Watson?
Yes, so I 100% agree with what I've heard so far in terms of how do we support our students to go out into the world post-secondary and when they leave the Dubuque Community School District. And bringing in the community is, of course, one of the ways, and also what we're already doing in terms of the career pathways, in terms of becoming an electrician, a plumber, and having board members that have different community connections and saying, hey, what can we do, at least from a board standpoint? Of course, we don't have all the answers, but what can I do to be a part of the good that happens in this district while the kids are here and after they leave too? So yes, I think we can prepare our kids for the future by exposing them to all the opportunities, not just, four-year colleges or two-year associate's programs, but the CNA pathway is a wonderful pathway that we have within our school district, because then that at least gets our students exposed to being, what the field of medicine and the field of nursing is, because then they can go forth and become an RN and then a BSN and then, a nurse practitioner. And, we don't know what the end goal of the students are, but in Iowa, we do have there is a heck of a lot of negative that happens in our state, at least at a state level. But one of the wonderful things, our CNA pathway could lead us to having more nurse practitioners in the future. So what that can do is kill several birds with one stone. We don't have enough primary care providers. So if we have our graduating seniors that are already CNAs, they can be RNs in no time and nurse practitioners in about 3 years. So that's a wonderful opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Injun.
I think in an effort for me to not duplicate what everyone else is going to say, I'm going to take this in a little bit different direction. When my children were little, I have adult daughters, and when they were little, and the report card used to come, in an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that you opened up like this, and on one side it said how they did in reading and science and math and social studies, and on the other side it talked about their classroom behaviors. And I used to say to my daughters, we're not going to talk about this side because everyone can learn to add and subtract. We're going to talk about this side in your classroom behaviors, because I think that their character and my role as a parent in developing their character and how they were and how they are now as adults in the world is just as important as those learning opportunities. And so to answer the question, how can the school district help to prepare students for post-secondary life? I think we have to develop those students and those young people to become adults who are contributing, respectful members of their community, who can self-regulate when they are triggered and angered, right? I think that there is opportunities are abundant for learning to be a CNA or to be an electrician, all of those things, but let's also teach children how to be in the world with one another.
Thank you.
Yeah, so within our current schools, we have a lot of programs in place currently. And so for us right now, it's not to create anything new right now. I don't think so. It's really to look at our existing systems, looking at the data to see who's actually participating in the various programs that we actually have, and how do we begin to scale some of the efforts that we have and also fill in some of the gaps where we see students are not actively engaged within our systems. Then from there, if we need to create something new because it's not engaging certain population, because it's not meeting their interests or their desires, let's create something new that's meeting the needs of our students. But I think it's very important within the existing structures that we have that for the kids that are doing very well, let's continue to push them to be great. For the kids that are in the middle that need that extra push, or the kids below, let's figure out what they need and put the right resources behind them so that way they can be whatever they want to be. Right, and I think it's also important as I look at research, we need students to be critical thinkers. We need students that need to be problem solvers that can collaborate across differences. And one of my best friends, he's very in tune with this, and I'm trying to do better, but emotional intelligence. We have to have students that are more emotionally aware of not only their own needs, but the needs around of others. And so emotional intelligence is very important for our kids moving forward.
Thank you. Well, an entirely different matter, kind of a lighter subject, but one that us old people just shake our heads at. How is the cell phone ban working? Do you approve? And I have to tell you, when I found out that kids were coming in and doing their phones in the class, I thought, oh, Myrtle Thomas would have a heart attack. She's my 8th grade math teacher, and man, she did not. Oh, so how is it working? And do you think it's going along all right? And so we will start with Mr. Kane Watson.
Yes, I think when the cell phone ban first came out, I was at least critical of what that meant. Of course, that means I went ahead and did research and talked with parents, talked with teachers, administrators, staff, et cetera. And I do understand the importance of the cell phone and what that can do in terms of at least providing the parents with some sort of safety in terms of getting in contact with them in case anything happens at school, et cetera. But in the age of technology and the age of and the advantage of our students, I think taking the cell phones out of the classroom, we do have the parents can call the school, the parents can email teachers, et cetera, can get a hold of their kids another way. I think that was a big component of parents that were against the cell phone ban and in terms of, the safety in our schools. But I do think at least taking that one distraction, you have all the other hours out of the day to be on a cell phone. You have laptops here, you have textbooks, you have something right here in front of you that you should be focused on. And what that does, it also prepares us to be better stewards of our time in terms of when we leave, the goal is to make our students ready for you in terms of ready for the world as well. And, going out and working, I believe Mrs. Bradley mentioned that, making our students ready to go out into the world. You're not going to be able to be on your phone at an 8-hour work shift. So let's start here in school.
Thank you. Ms. Hinton.
When I was here at the school district, I was the director of behavior and learning supports, and I dealt with a lot of student discipline. And I think in the last few years that I was here, there was probably a majority of the discipline that I dealt with was related to cell phones, whether it was in the classroom and the teacher asking the child to put it away or just inappropriate behavior with a cell phone. So it's a tough issue, I know, because I think that we want to embrace technology and we want to empower our students to be able to know and use technology, but cell phones have historically, in the past 10 years, been a huge distraction for students. And so if there is opportunity for limited use, and I know the ban is interpreted differently in different school districts with a little bit of wiggle room, that I think if it's after school, if it's before school, and students have that opportunity to be on their phones, that's fine. But in the classroom, I think that teachers can use other technology more appropriately than the cell phones just because of some of the misbehavior that was centered around cell phone use. So is it working from what I've heard from teachers, is working, I'll stop there.
All right, so as someone who has children inside the schools with cell phones, I remember asking my son when I picked him up from senior, so how's it going? And if you wonder with my son, oh, Dad, everything's going good. I'm like, you sure? So to the grandparents, you don't have to worry about cell phones. Kids are still collaborating. They're trying to figure out how to communicate. That's the real challenge because now they're saying 6, 7, or 41. And if you don't know what that means as a grandparent, that's what you have to worry about, not the cell phones, I tell you that. And so I think it is a good thing that we did as a district. At some point, we were debating if this was going to be the right decision for our district, but it has worked out very well. Hopefully, students are not bullying each other. Hopefully, students can actually look at each other and actually communicate with one another because, again, that's what's going to prepare them for the real world, not looking at their cell phones and doing TikTok videos, which could be an asset for some, but ultimately, not having that phone on them all the time has been a very beneficial thing.
Thank you. Ms. Bradley?
Well, I am delighted that we have a cell phone ban. I was very concerned about the teaching and learning environment. I'm all about strong teaching and strong learning outcomes. And if students are distracted by cell phones, that critical learning environment is eroded mightily. And so we were well on our way to creating a cell phone ban before the state decided to tell all of the schools that they would have one. And it's off to a very strong start from those I have talked with, both staff and students. And I think that what we're seeing is we came out of the pandemic with some attendance issues, that we've worked to overcome, and we came out with communication issues. And our students were more consumed by cell phones after the pandemic than even before. This helps us creating a learning environment that's right for teaching and that's right for learning. And I think it was a good decision to keep high schoolers being able to access their cell phones at lunchtime. I think that's fine. And also, the other thing that worked well, I think, is that we set a very clear path for violations. If you violate one time, here's what happens. If you violate a second time, here's what happens. And I think it sent a very clear message to everybody. We're serious about this, we care about you and your learning, and so here's how it will go down, and I'm out of time.
Thank you. The next question is, with all of the changes and uncertainty at the federal level in regards to special education, how will you plan to support special education at the local level? And so, we'll start with you, Sinjin.
Well, first of all, I think that we have an excellent special education department here at the Dubuque Community School District. We have stable leadership and stable staff with our special education department. And we want to make sure that those folks feel seen, feel valued, feel heard in their input for what needs to happen next. I think there's an opportunity at the state level for further advocacy to ensure that any federal mandates that come down are softened via state policy. So I think that from my perspective, my advocacy would be at that state level with legislators and policymakers, other policymakers at the state level, to ensure that special education programs are protected. I think we also have the opportunity to work with other organizations like our AEAs and providers in our community who provide services to students who need special education services. I think we also need to look at our 504 planning. If we have risk or we have a decrease in special education availability, then is it appropriate to look at that student, and does that student then qualify for a 504 plan, which is, related but different programming to ensure that the student's needs are met, because that's really the bottom line.
Mr. Sanchez.
I think this is another great example of why you need strong public education systems within the community. So despite what goes on at the federal level, we have infrastructure in place to be ready for every single child that comes into our building, which we have to take, right? And we're proud to take every single student that comes into our building. And so we have an amazing team here. And so as we continue to understand the impact from the federal to the state level, our team will bring that, meaning our superintendent, her board, her cabinet will bring that information to the board. We will make sure that we look at the impact and how that affects the students in our community, and we'll make the right decisions. Because again, we have to and we desire to impact every single student. Every single student that comes into this institution should have the ability to learn, grow, and develop. And so we will be ready, despite what goes on at the federal level, because we have an amazing team here that will plan and get us ready for that.
Thank you. Ms. Bradley?
I have a button in my car that says all means all. And for me, that means all children have a right to the highest quality of educational programming that we can possibly provide. So for me, as a lifelong educator or a career-long educator, I have been a staunch advocate for children with disabilities and for those who supported and worked with the children with disabilities. We must never stop looking for better ways and more ways to meet each and every child's needs. So to me now as a board member, that means I lend support and encouragement in every way that I can and will continue to for those who are creating programming for children with disabilities and for those who are working directly with children with disabilities. Bless them and thank them. There are some very tough jobs connected with that, but how wonderful that we have people who care about all kids and want to be of service to those who have some of the greatest challenges before them. My job is to support them.
Thank you. Mr. Watson?
I think this really does come down to collaboration and partnership, community, et cetera. So, we can do my at least proposed solution. Of course, I don't have all the answers. I'm not an educator, at least in the schools. So we can be the best stewards of the funds and the opportunities and the programming that we have right in front of us. And what we can't do, how can we look to, the AEAs, even the teachers unions to help us find better and more effective opportunities, or find ways that we're not reaching certain students. Also reaching out to our reaching out to our communities, and also forming better public-private partnerships. In terms of, I know Caravel Autism Health, I do have one of my youngest supporters, is what I call him, Christian, for my campaign, does take advantage of Caravel Autism Health. And I think even reaching out, like I said, to those partnerships to see what we can do in terms of community, bringing the community into the table. And I think also, I know that May mentioned this too, but having better advocacy at the state level, seeing what we can do at the district, partnering with our community members and our advocates right here in the community to say, what can we do to send someone from Dubuque to Des Moines to advocate? Also holding people accountable that do represent us. So Jennifer Smith, Lindsay James as well. So I think, and whoever is in the future.
Thank you. This one, I'll read the question to you and then maybe expand a bit. How do you think you could increase pay for teachers and paras? If you had a magic wand, you could wave it. But I think what we would like to hear is your thought process on teachers' salaries and the paraprofessionals that work with them. How do we determine what is fair and what is equitable, what is doable, what's not doable? A good teacher will pay $1 million for a teacher that's not so much $595. But that's not the way the system works. So how do you set up a system within the boundaries that you have fiscally to properly reimburse the people who you depend upon to do they're on the front line with the children that are in our schools, our teachers and our paraprofessionals? Mr. Sanchi, I think it's your turn to start.
Yeah, so again, just looking to our staff. So with our HR team reaching out to every single bargain unit, it is to make sure that we're doing what's fair with the budget that we have. But as a board, this is where we come in and we advocate to our residents, to talk to our state legislative, to make sure we have the right resources to fund public education system. If we can't fund public education systems, we can't keep the existing staff that we have, let alone bring in new staff, let alone teach new students to become educators. Because if they go home and they hear their mom and dad or their caregiver say, you know what, education is not the future place to work, you need to go do something else, that's a bad thing. And so I think we got to continue to do what we can with the budget we have, continue to encourage paraprofessionals within our structures. Hey, can we help you skill up so that way you can become a teacher, you can become a coach, you can become additional things within the districts to get additional funding. We're going to continue to try to create a structure like that, but from a board level, advocacy, 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 and encouraging even every resident in here, advocate for public education system, because we need strong public educational systems in every community.
Thank you. Ms. Bradley.
Well said, Mr. Sansi. I think that the advocacy that advocacy role of a board member is critical. By law, we have two jobs: to select and hold accountable the superintendent and to make policy. I think there's a third one, and that is legislative advocacy. We are falling, I've already made reference to our shortfall in terms of appropriate funding to public education. That's the limit. Because we're a people organization, that's our business, 82 to 85% of our budget is spent on people. And we can never pay our teachers and our paras those are the two groups you cited, enough for the incredible work that they do. It's hard work, it's good work, they are underpaid, and they are challenged in far more ways than we could ever imagine. So everything we can do as board members to overcome the funding limits that we're given, to add more payment for our teachers, for our paras, must happen. They are underpaid. The work is essential. It's life-shaping for each of us and all of us, because these kids are our future. And so thanks to our teachers and paras, but we must find ways to pay them more in a time of budget shortage.
Thank
And
you.
I'm out of time.
Mr. King Watson?
I think the biggest way to look at avenues of increasing teacher pay, para pay, is, again, advocacy. I think we've all mentioned advocacy up here. So there's only so much that we can do in terms of caps from state legislators, not just the state, but also federal. What can we do to get advocacy out there and also bring folks in as well? And, you know, I think, yes, one of the ways is looking at ways we can get the paras to become coaches. I know there, if you look at the district's HR page at any given time, I think coaching is probably always one of the positions that's available, paraprofessionals and also custodians. So I think taking the people that we have and seeing what other avenues are you better suited for that might have a higher pay structure. And I think also looking at ways that a simple, like I shouldn't say simple because degrees aren't simple by any means, but that degrees, well, at least degree attainment is not the only way to, I think, measure the viability of raising a teacher's salary. What other community advocacy roles do you take on, or what other community-facing roles do you have that we can compensate you for, and what can you bring back to the district into the classroom to benefit your peers and your colleagues, administrators, but at the end of the day, our students. So,
Thank you. Ms. Hinchen?
Clearly, the answer is advocacy. So I'm going to try and tell a 90-second story. 3 years ago, I was the chief executive officer of the Mental Health and Disability Services region, where we implemented policy and funding for children's brain health. And I was at the state capitol, and I was advocating with Senator Jeff Edler, who is no longer a senator. He retired, but he was the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee. And I said to Senator Edler, who knew my background and knew that I had worked in the school district, and I said to him, schools are going to advocate for you for more money for children's brain health services. And he said, yeah, they are. And I said, don't give it to them. And he looked at me and he said, what? And I said, you know me, and I'm always going to advocate for education, for funding for public education. I said, but that time the mental health region was the one that was responsible for children's brain health. And I said, have the schools work with us, and we can work together on this issue. And then I spent the rest of my time with him advocating for a 4% SSA. Nobody's talked about SSA yet, but the state supplemental aid has been woefully underfunded for about as many years as I can remember. So I bent Senator Edler's ear about 4% for the rest of my time with him that day. So advocacy is the answer, and I have a history of doing it.
Mr. Sanchi?
You want me to go again?
That's it? Yeah.
I'm starting to think you and I have a thing here.
We got something going here now.
Hey, my wife is watching, so.
Well, it is simply the matter that I am absolutely enthralled by your answers. I think we have 4 excellent candidates here, people who have bringing an awful lot. And hearing your answers and the thought process that goes into it is just enthralling. Congratulations to all of you. Anyway. It is known that young kids are awake early and teenagers are up late. How do you feel about changing school times to reflect best learning times? Now, Nancy, I think you did.
I served on a committee probably about 20 years ago where we investigated that topic, and it is absolutely certain that changing times is the right thing to do. Let's start our secondary schools later. Let's start our elementary schools later, until you look at busing. busing, starting elementary children at the earlier time, good for their time clocks, but it puts them waiting for school buses in the dark for a very long time. And we have a lot of students who are bused. It certainly messes with the athletic schedule, and I think there are ways that we could deal with that. But I don't know a way to deal with the fact that children starting at 7:30 in the morning, as let's say, as our secondary schools do, that means starting to wait for the school bus at 6:30. And we know much of our school year's daylight schedule means they're in the dark for a long time. So that was the strange thing that we bumped up against that kept us from doing it. We've continued to look for ways to even fudge it a little bit so that we could start it even 20 minutes differently that would help on both ends of it. So far, we've not conquered that, but it's the right thing to do.
Thank you. Mr. Kane Watson?
Yes, I think in terms of changing the start times for all different levels, as Mrs. Riley mentioned, is the step in the right direction, but also looking at the extracurricular activities that these students are involved in. And also, it's easy to say that we can start schools earlier, later, but also let's take into account the fact of course, we all don't have all the answers, but there are a lot of factors at play here, especially in terms of parents who may pick up their kids or drop their kids off at school, parents' work schedules as well, especially if it's a single parent. And then we're talking about kids at different levels. I have several family members with kids in elementary school, middle school, high school. And so I think the coordination of times of the different entities that are at play here would be very challenging, but I do think that it's a step in the right direction. And I think as we move forward, it's always a good time to learn that change is inevitable and change is what we need, and change must happen now. So whatever we can do in terms of looking at different avenues of how do we make the best use of our time with our kids, I think we should do that, but it's also not something that we all have the answers for, because what works in 2025 may not even work next school year. So I think it's always time to go back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Ms. Hinchen?
I'm not sure it was 20 years ago, because I think I might have been on that committee too.
I think you were.
Either that or this issue just keeps coming up several times. So, yeah, I mean, clearly there is the right answer, and then there is the answer that is most practical, right? And I think rather than, going down the rabbit hole on this issue, my master's degree is in youth development, studying children ages 12 to 25. So I'm very familiar with the sleep-wake cycle. But like I said, not getting down to that rabbit hole is to bring our attention to a decision-making process, right? And this school district has a strong history of, as we said, 20 years ago or more frequently since then, looking at the issue, weighing all of the factors and making the best decision that is appropriate at the time, given not just sleep-wake cycles and energy levels of our students, but also just practically what we can afford and what is the best for our school district. And when we say that, it's not just students, but it's families and it's teachers also.
Mr. Sanders?
Luckily, this is just an idea and not something that we're actively talking about right now, because there will need to be a lot of processes and engaging families on what's best for the entire community. But just to add to this idea, right, you got not just later start, you have 4-day versus 5-day, you have year-round, because we do know of the summer lost learning, right? So these are all things that are well research based, but we have to do what's best for Dubuque students and families. But again, there would have to be a lot of processing and engaging community members, because there is a lot of factors that will play out to any decision. So to people watching, this is just an idea. This is not what we're talking about right now. But thanks for whoever brought this up.
All right. I think we probably have time for one more question. And this one is, what should be the procedure if a parent has a complaint about curriculum?
Is that me first?
No, I think it starts with Mr.
I have to believe it.
But yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
Campbell, well,
You're
it's getting
fine.
late. It is getting late.
So,
No, it's you.
thank you. Thank you. So I do understand the importance of parents having a say in what their kids are learning, et cetera. But I also do think that, as all the other candidates up here have mentioned, that we do have administrators and teachers in our schools that know probably what's even better for our kids than sometimes parents might be able to understand. But I do think there needs to be a process in place for parents bringing up concerns to the schools. I think, I know that there are processes that exist within our district now. I think always coming back to the drawing board to say, how has this helped us in the past? What can we do now? What are the issues now? And how do we look forward to the future? Because of course, we're not just legislating or leading this. We're not just directing the school board for now, we're directing the school board for the future as well. So I think just having better transparency in terms of how a parent can go forward, and with any complaints, having a point person to go to within the district, but even having board members that even if the board opens up, some sort of reporting system that parents can report what they would like to see different within the school district to the board. Or in another opportunity, I believe I mentioned this when I was interviewed by the teachers union, of having like a teacher, and I know we have PTA, et cetera, but having a teacher and parent advocacy board or council that kind of reports to the board on a regular basis as well.
Thank you. Ms. Hinchin.
I think we always want to encourage family involvement in their child's education. Our parents are the most experts on their children, so we want to encourage that. We want to accept that input and that engagement and that participation with parents. But I also would say that my encouragement would be that if parents have opinions about curriculum, that it is balanced between opinion and fact, right? Because a parent can have a strong opinion about a certain educational standpoint, but have we done the research to make sure that this is best practice, and that, what is the motivation, what's the intention of our school district in implementing certain curriculum? I think it's very easy for us to have opinions, but not to back them up with fact. And so I think it would be, it's a school board's responsibility to support our staff, to engage parents and get that feedback via the curriculum study process, to make sure that also that we're communicating the whys, and our curriculum staff do a really good job of, through that curriculum study process of determining perhaps it's a new state mandate or perhaps it's just best practice. And so not only should we engage parents to get their opinion, but we also need to engage them to let them know why we've made the decisions that we've made.
Yeah, so here's what we currently do. And so parents do know what's best for each and every single one of their children, and we're going to partner with the parents. Issues with curriculum happens at the building level. So any parent can go right to their principal or assistant principal and bring up any concerns that they have with any textbook, and if they would want to choose not to participate in something because it's against their values, you name it, the parents will work with, or the teachers will work with every single parent. We have multiple committees at every single building where, again, parents can be engaged in their students' learning. We've had in here where parents, teachers, paraprofessionals can come together and review curriculum and see what's best, again, that aligns not only with the state, but supports how we're going to educate every single children. So we have multiple ways where parents can get involved. We want to continue to keep parents involved. It's actually in our strategic plan to get parents more involved, and we will continue to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Bradley.
We agree with you, Mr. Sansi. When parents have a concern about, we'll say curriculum, that's a bit of a vague term, what that actually refers to. But it should always start at the school level when there is a concern. And beyond that, I'm happy to say that there's a very prescribed procedure in board policy for parents who have concerns about a book, an aspect of curriculum, an instructional strategy or procedure that's being used, any of that. And once it's been considered at the building level, if it then needs further consideration, the parents are not satisfied with the results, there is a procedure that prescribes, it's called a hearing, I think, in board policy. That sounds judge and jury-ish. It isn't that at all. The parents have an opportunity to come before an assemblage of representative people from the district who will then take under advisement the concern that's brought forward, and they'll either agree with it and make that change, or they'll disagree with it and give the parent the opportunity to extract their child from that portion of the curriculum that's the point of concern. And so the child would not have to participate in it. And it's a delightfully well-prescribed process that works very well. So I'm pleased we have that.
Great. Well, it's 7:30, and it's been a very interesting hour and a half, and thank you so much again for being willing to donate all the time and energy that you are, not just to the campaign, but to performing on the board, because we all agree it is so important for all of our community and our society. So thank you very much. I want to let you know that this evening's forum is available for viewing again on the district. They get 2 minutes for closing statement. Oh, heaven's sakes. Well, we'll stay for that, because I know the last 2 minutes will be the very best. The summing up then, and let's see, where were we? We had started with, okay, I think, Mr. Kane, I think Ms. Hinchin will be the finale leader.
All righty. Well, first of all, thank you again for this opportunity, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting us this evening. I've wanted to be on a school board for about 20 years. When my children were little, I never wanted to run for school board at that time, because I had a family member who was on a school board, and she ran for a particular purpose. And she got what she wanted for her own child, but it backfired. And I never wanted people to think that I was on a school board for something just for my own children. And so I knew at the time that it was not the time. And then we moved to Dubuque, and I thought, gosh, nobody knows me. Why would anyone vote for me? And then I worked here, right? So I couldn't run for the school district or for the school board when I worked here. And I've been telling myself for a while that it was the timing just wasn't right, and I needed to be patient, and I needed to wait for my time. But I've been reflecting on that in the last couple of weeks, and I think it's a lot more than just timing. It's preparedness. In the last 20 years, I've had the opportunity to build my leadership skills, to ensure that I understand things like proper decision-making, strategic visioning, strategic planning, the role of a board. I have worked with a public board for almost 20 years, so I know what it's like to work with a public board, and for me to really cement that passion that I have for children's well-being, and to know that what I can bring forth as a school board member is that focus. I mean, I have the ability to think big picture and to do strategic planning. I understand school finance, but it'll always come back for me to what's best for our students.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchi.
Yeah, again, I just want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this, and everyone that's here today. Instead of telling you why you should vote for me, I want to read what a teacher wrote and posted on my social media page, verbatim. Not only is Anderson Sanchi a problem solver and willing to listen, he is a teammate to school, staff, students, and families. Anderson would come to our school, serve lunch to students, and then spend time with our amazing lunch staff cleaning up and learning about their jobs. After that work, he would join classrooms, not just to observe, but to jump in and be a part of the lesson and solutions. He would share the amazing things he saw with other teachers and inspire collaboration within our schools. I cannot wait to see him continue this work for years to come. I love this district, and I will continue to serve you with a genuine heart, with an open mind, and ready to collaborate to move our district forward. So I would be honored to serve you for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bradley.
Well, to the League of Women Voters, each of you and all of you, thank you. This is an opportunity as candidates for the board for us to hear each other, frankly, to learn more about each other, and for those watching to be able to learn more about us, each of us. So thank you, League, for this opportunity. I'm sure it has been helpful to our voters. I think that I have pretty clearly demonstrated my lifelong commitment to kids and families and community, not only in terms of longevity, but in terms of the work that I put in to the work of being a board member. I'm pretty diligent about that and come prepared to do the work. My commitment to children also includes not only serving on the Dubuque Community School District Board, I also serve on the Keystone Area Education Agency Board of Directors, which has given me a different perspective since that serves the whole of the Northeast Iowa section in the area. And I think I'm pretty uniquely qualified for the work. My focus has been, and it will be, on excellent teaching, strong learning outcomes, extensive programming options, fiscal responsibility, and continuous improvement. That's who I am. And I really want to say that I think those unique combination of qualifications, knowledge, experience, demonstrated devotion to the work and to the kids we serve do make me uniquely qualified, and I hope that it makes me a person you want to support. And if it is, thank you. If not, I think you see that you have candidates here who, as you said, Mary Ray, have much to offer this district. And so thank you for the opportunity. It's good work to work for kids.
Yes, Mr. Kane Watson.
Thank you. So I want to join the chorus in thanking the League of Women Voters, but most importantly, really thanking the voters for coming out and really listening to what the four candidates have to say, what our positions are on certain topics, certain issues, and really taking it away from, I think this up here, it takes it away from more of a campaign style to more of a, a question and answer. We're taking questions directly from the audience. So I'm very enthused about that part of tonight. So at the end of the day, this race is not just about a bond or about a building. It's really about a belief that every child in Dubuque, no matter the zip code, deserves dignity, opportunity, and a fair shot at life. The perfect way to build up people is to keep schools open, not to close them, to listen before you legislate, to choose equity over convenience every single time. And I get it. I know some of my words may make people uncomfortable. But as Malcolm X said, I'm for the truth no matter who tells it. I'm for justice no matter who is for or against. And the truth is, the North End has been strategically undervalued for decades. Families there keep paying the price for decisions made by people who don't even live there, where the decisions are hit the hardest. And let's be real, we need leaders who will question everything, who will fight for everyone, who will make sure that if it works for Carver Elementary and Roosevelt Middle School, that it damn sure works for Fulton and Jefferson too. I'm not running for the title. I'm running because I've lived this, because I know what it feels like to be unseen and unheard. So if you're tired of waiting for change, let's stop waiting. If we're tired of being told to be patient, let's stop asking for permission, because when leadership fails, community rises. And this November, we're not just raising. We're walking in, we're pulling up a chair, we're saying loud enough for the entire city to hear that we belong here, we're not leaving, we're done asking, and we're taking what's ours. Thank you, and I appreciate your vote on November 4th.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for being with us this evening. And of course, you know that if you haven't voted already, you've got to get out there. And on a personal note, if you're thinking about having a little extra time and you might be a mentor, I spent 13 years mentoring at Prescott School, and it was the best thing I've ever done. And that includes raising my own kids, because I can take care of them. So anyway, think about becoming a mentor. Don't forget to vote, and thanks very much for coming.